In a charming American town, nestled amidst rolling hills and tree-lined streets, lived Liam and Sarah, a couple whose love story seemed plucked from the pages of a fairy tale. Their existence was a harmonious blend of shared laughter, whispered dreams, and an unwavering devotion that radiated from them like a warm, comforting glow. To anyone who knew them, they were the embodiment of perfection, a testament to what true love could achieve. Liam, with his earnest eyes and ready smile, believed with every fiber of his being that their bond was eternal, a love destined to last forever. This conviction wasn't just a fleeting wish. It was the bedrock of his entire world, a certainty he clung to with absolute faith. Their journey had begun years ago, a serendipitous encounter at a local bookstore. Liam, engrossed in a classic novel, had bumped into Sarah, sending a cascade of literary treasures tumbling to the floor. Their eyes had met over a fallen copy of Pride and Prejudice, and in that instant, a connection sparked, undeniable and profound. Their first date had been a simple picnic by the old oak tree in the town square, where they talked for hours, discovering an astonishing synchronicity in their thoughts and aspirations. Dates turned into months, months into years, each moment woven into the rich tapestry of their shared history. Liam remembered the proposal vividly, a starlit night by the lake, the gentle lapping of water against the shore, and his heart pounding with an exhilarating mix of nerves and absolute certainty as he knelt, a diamond glinting under the moonlight. Sarah, her eyes glistening with tears, had whispered an emphatic yes, sealing their fate. Sarah, with her quiet grace and gentle demeanor, was Liam's steadfast anchor. She was always there, a silent, supportive presence, her hand a comforting weight in his, her gaze filled with an understanding that transcended words. She embodied the quiet strength that balanced Liam's more effusive passion. Together, they built their dream home on the outskirts of town, a cozy haven with a wraparound porch and a garden Sarah meticulously tended. Every nail hammered, every brushstroke applied, was a testament to their shared future, a physical manifestation of their commitment. It was a place where memories would be made, where their forever would unfold. Yet beneath Sarah's serene exterior, a subtle undercurrent stirred, a flicker of ambition that Liam, in his blissful certainty, never fully perceived. Perhaps it was a hidden dream, a secret aspiration carefully guarded, or simply a deep-seated desire for something more that lay dormant, waiting for the right moment to surface. Liam, however, remained oblivious, his vision of their future unclouded by doubt. He trusted Sarah implicitly, his faith in her unshakable, a fortress built on years of shared intimacy and unwavering loyalty. He often told her, his voice thick with emotion, "You are my forever, Sarah. I know it in my soul." And she would respond with a soft smile, a gentle squeeze of his hand, a gesture that he interpreted as complete agreement, never questioning the depth of the emotion behind it. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Liam watched Sarah tending to her roses, her silhouette framed by the golden light. A fleeting shadow danced across the garden fence, a momentary disturbance in the otherwise perfect tableau, but Liam dismissed it as a trick of the light. He walked towards her, his heart swelling with an overwhelming sense of contentment. He wrapped his arms around her waist, resting his chin on her shoulder, inhaling the scent of her hair and the sweet fragrance of the blossoms. "We have everything, don't we?" he murmured, his voice laced with pure adoration. Sarah leaned into his embrace, her eyes fixed on the distant horizon, a faint, almost imperceptible tremor passing through her. Liam, lost in his perfect moment, felt nothing but the warmth of her body against his gaze fixed on her with an intensity that spoke of absolute trust and unyielding love. He was utterly unaware of the storm gathering on the horizon, a tempest that threatened to shatter his meticulously constructed world. Could such perfect, absolute love truly last forever? Or was forever merely a fragile illusion, destined to crumble under the weight of unforeseen realities? The serene idyll of Liam and Sarah's world, however, was about to be subtly, almost imperceptibly, disturbed by the arrival of Mark. Mark was Liam's new business partner, a man whose ambition burned as brightly as Liam's own, but with a charisma that was both captivating and, in retrospect, disarmingly persuasive. He was tall, with an easy smile and eyes that seemed to miss nothing, a natural leader who quickly integrated himself into Liam's professional life and, by extension, his personal one. Their initial interactions were purely professional, marked by the shared excitement of new ventures and burgeoning opportunities. Mark would frequently join Liam for dinner at their home, discussing strategies and future plans late into the evening. Sarah, ever the gracious hostess, would prepare exquisite meals, her quiet dignity a perfect complement to the men's animated conversations. Yet, as the weeks turned into months, a subtle shift began to occur. Mark's compliments to Sarah, initially polite and innocuous, started to carry an underlying current, a warmth that lingered a fraction too long, a gaze that held a flicker of something more than mere professional admiration. Liam, consumed by the intoxicating rush of his burgeoning career, driven by an almost desperate need to provide an even grander future for Sarah, remained oblivious. He interpreted Mark's attentiveness as a sign of respect, a testament to Sarah's inherent charm and intelligence. Liam's absorption in his work grew exponentially. He spent longer hours at the office, his phone a constant companion, his mind perpetually spinning with ideas and projections. He saw it as a necessary sacrifice, a temporary phase that would ultimately cement their financial security and allow them an even more comfortable, boundless future. Sarah, in turn, became increasingly involved in the business, her sharp organizational skills proving invaluable. She started working closely with Mark, their desks often side by side, their collaboration seamless and efficient. Liam would often arrive home to find them still poring over documents, their heads close together, a shared understanding passing between them that he, from his vantage point, saw as purely professional synergy. But with this increasing proximity, subtle changes in Sarah's behavior began to manifest. The late nights at the office became more frequent, her explanations for them increasingly vague. A growing distance, almost imperceptible at first, started to creep into their evenings. Her once immediate responses to his questions became evasive, her gaze often drifting away as if she were guarding a thought. Liam, however, dismissed these nascent anxieties as stress from work, both hers and his. He attributed her weariness to the demands of their shared ambition, his own exhaustion blinding him to the deeper shifts occurring beneath the surface. He would often reassure her and himself that it was all part of the journey, a temporary strain before the glorious future they were building together. One evening, during a casual dinner with Mark, Liam witnessed a moment that, in retrospect, would haunt him. Sarah made a comment about a particularly challenging client, and Mark responded with a quick, witty retort that made Sarah laugh, a genuine, uninhibited sound. Their eyes met across the table, a private joke passing between them, a knowing glance that lasted just a beat too long. Liam's stomach did a strange flutter, a fleeting sense of unease, but he quickly rationalized it away. They were colleagues, close collaborators. Of course they would develop an easy rapport. His friends and even his mother, during infrequent phone calls, began to voice minor concerns. "Sarah seems a little different, doesn't she, Liam?" his mother once ventured, her voice laced with a subtle apprehension. A little more distant. Liam had brushed it off, attributing it to his mother's natural protectiveness, or perhaps just the usual changes that come with a demanding career. He was so certain of Sarah, so convinced of their unbreakable bond, that any suggestion to the contrary felt like an affront, an attack on the very foundation of his happiness. Then came the new opportunity, a major expansion into a different state, requiring significant travel for Liam. It was a career-defining move, a chance to elevate their business to an entirely new level. Liam felt an internal conflict tear at him, the burning ambition for professional success warring with his deep-seated desire to spend more time with Sarah, to rekindle the quiet intimacy that felt increasingly elusive. He discussed it with her, outlining the pros and cons, seeking her unwavering support. Sarah, after a brief hesitation, encouraged him, her voice firm, assuring him that she would handle everything at home and the office. He left for his first trip with a heavy heart, but a renewed sense of purpose, believing he was doing it all for them. Just before he left, as he was packing his suitcase, he saw Sarah quickly close her phone, almost instinctively, as he walked into the room. A fleeting shadow crossed her face, a momentary flicker of something he couldn't quite decipher. "Just a work email," she said, her voice a little too quick, a little too bright. He nodded, accepting her explanation without a second thought. His mind was already miles away, envisioning the triumphs and challenges of his upcoming journey. The narrator, however, sees the impending storm, the dark clouds gathering on the horizon, unseen by the man whose world was built on such naive optimism. Liam, with his unwavering belief in forever, remained blissfully unaware that the shifting sands beneath his feet were not just the natural ebb and flow of life, but the subtle, insidious erosion of the very foundation of his perfect world, orchestrated by hands he trusted implicitly. Liam's business trips, initially a temporary necessity, quickly became a frequent and prolonged fixture in their lives. He found himself spending more weeks away than at home, navigating boardrooms and negotiating deals in distant cities, while Sarah remained in their once bustling, now increasingly silent, dream home with Mark. Liam tried diligently to bridge the growing geographical and emotional chasm through daily phone calls and video chats. He would recount his day in painstaking detail, hoping to elicit a similar openness from Sarah. Yet her responses grew steadily more succinct, her eyes often darting away from the screen, her attention seemingly divided. She claimed exhaustion, the increased workload at the office, the demands of managing their home in his absence. He wanted to believe her, desperately needing to cling to the image of his steadfast wife, but a nagging whisper of doubt began to insinuate itself into his thoughts. During one of his brief returns, a weekend reprieve between extensive travel, Liam made a discovery that, though seemingly trivial, struck him with an odd, unsettling force. He was tidying up their bedroom, an unusual task for him, when his hand brushed against something beneath Sarah's pillow. It was a silver pen, sleek and modern, with an engraved initial M. It wasn't Sarah's, nor did it belong to him. A small, seemingly insignificant item, yet it felt like a foreign object, out of place in the sanctuary of their shared space. He held it in his hand, a cold dread seeping into his fingertips. When he casually asked Sarah about it, holding it up with a forced smile, she stammered, her gaze evasive. "Oh, that? Mark must have left it when he dropped off some files. He's always forgetting things." Her explanation was a little too quick, a little too defensive, a slight tremor in her voice that Liam, in his heightened state of anxiety, did not miss. He nodded, feigning acceptance, but the seed of doubt had been firmly planted, its roots already beginning to intertwine with his deepest fears. The inconsistencies multiplied, small cracks appearing in the facade of their perfect life. Sarah would occasionally mention plans for the evening, then later offer a different account. Her stories about work meetings with Mark became vague, details shifting like sand dunes in a desert wind. Liam's mind, once filled with professional strategies and future aspirations, now became a relentless detective, replaying every interaction, every word, every glance. He fought against the ugly truth that threatened to consume him, battling the insidious thoughts that crept in during the quiet hours of the night. He would lie awake, staring at the ceiling, picturing Sarah and Mark, their private jokes, their knowing glances, now imbued with a menacing new meaning. The certainty that had been the bedrock of his existence began to waver, replaced by a gnawing paranoia. One afternoon, returning home unexpectedly early from a canceled flight, Liam heard hushed voices emanating from his study. He paused at the door, his heart hammering against his ribs. It was Sarah and Mark. He couldn't make out specific words, only the low murmur of their voices, punctuated by Sarah's soft laughter, a sound that now grated on his nerves rather than soothing them. He heard Mark's voice, a comforting, intimate tone that sent a shiver down Liam's spine. He almost burst in, almost confronted them, his mind screaming for answers, for the truth, no matter how painful. But a paralyzing fear held him back. Fear of what he might find, fear of shattering the last vestiges of his illusions, fear of the irreversible end of his forever. He backed away silently, his footsteps muffled by the carpet, retreating to the solitude of his bedroom, the weight of unspoken questions pressing down on him. He confided in David, his oldest friend, over a strained lunch. David listened patiently, his face etched with concern. "Liam," he began gently, "I know this is hard to hear, but trust your gut. Don't ignore what you're feeling. But be careful, too. Don't jump to conclusions without proof." David's words, though cautious, validated Liam's burgeoning suspicions, making them feel less like the products of a paranoid mind and more like legitimate concerns. The ultimate test of his resolve came a few days later. He had returned home late, the house dark and quiet. As he approached their bedroom, he saw a sliver of light beneath the door. Pushing it open slowly, he saw Sarah and Mark. They were standing close, too close, in the soft glow of the bedside lamp. Mark's hand was on Sarah's arm, his head bent low, as if whispering something intimately. Sarah was looking up at him, her expression soft, vulnerable. For a split second, Liam's world tilted on its axis. He saw a flash of raw emotion pass between them, an undeniable connection that transcended professional camaraderie. Then, as if sensing his presence, Sarah's head snapped up, her eyes wide with alarm. Mark's hand dropped, and he took a step back, a forced, awkward smile appearing on his face. "Liam, you're back. We were just going over some late-night reports." The ambiguity was agonizing. Was it innocent? Or was it the confirmation of his deepest fears? Liam simply nodded, his throat tight, unable to speak. He retreated, the image burned into his mind, the chilling realization that his forever was not merely wavering. It was actively crumbling, piece by agonizing piece, beneath the weight of unspoken truths and ambiguous glances. His certainty, the absolute conviction that had defined his love, had finally shattered. The lingering image of Sarah and Mark, their clandestine intimacy illuminated by the bedside lamp, gnawed at Liam's soul. His certainty had not merely wavered, it had shattered, leaving behind a jagged landscape of suspicion and dread. The ambiguity of that moment, the thin veneer of a late-night report, was no longer enough to quell the storm raging within him. He needed answers, undeniable, irrefutable proof, even if it meant tearing down the last walls of his own delusion. Driven by a desperate, aching need to understand, Liam decided to investigate Sarah's behavior. The thought itself felt like a betrayal, a violation of the sacred trust he had once placed in her. Yet the alternative, living in this suffocating fog of doubt, was unbearable. He spent days wrestling with the decision, his mind a battlefield of conflicting emotions. The man who had once believed in an unwavering, unconditional love was now contemplating surveillance, a dark, unfamiliar path. The idea of hiring a private investigator felt too formal, too public, a stark admission of his crumbling reality. Instead, he opted for a more discreet, albeit equally painful, method. He purchased a tiny, high-definition camera, small enough to be hidden amongst their cherished possessions, its cold, unblinking lens a silent witness to the truth he both craved and feared. The act of placing it, his hands trembling as he secured it in a nondescript corner of their living room, felt like an irreversible step into a new, terrifying chapter of his life. Each click of the camera, each brief flash of its indicator light was a stab to his heart, a physical manifestation of his failing marriage. The agonizing wait for evidence stretched into an eternity. Every moment was filled with dread, every phone call from Sarah a new source of anxiety. He scrutinized her tone, her words, searching for any telltale sign, any crack in her composure. His work, once a source of pride and ambition, became a mere distraction, his thoughts constantly drifting back to the silent observer in his home. Sleep offered no respite, haunted by fragmented images of Sarah's soft laughter, Mark's intimate whispers, now replayed with a sinister soundtrack in his mind. The dread was a physical weight, pressing down on his chest, making it difficult to breathe, to think, to simply exist. Then came the moment. It was a Tuesday evening, 2 days after he had secretly installed the camera. He was alone in his study, pretending to work, when a notification flashed on his hidden monitor. His hands shook as he clicked on the file, the video beginning to play. The scene unfolded before him, stark and unforgiving. Sarah and Mark in their living room, the very space where he had envisioned their forever unfolding. They were not discussing reports, not sharing innocent jokes. They were in each other's arms, their lips locked in a passionate embrace that left no room for doubt, no space for ambiguity. Mark's hands caressed her back, Sarah's fingers tangled in his hair, a scene of raw, undeniable intimacy. The screen blurred, his vision swimming. A primal scream caught in his throat, a soundless explosion of pure, visceral shock. Disbelief warred with a horrifying certainty. His world, the one he had meticulously built brick by loving brick, shattered before his eyes, not with a bang, but with the quiet, damning evidence of a digital file. Every memory, every shared smile, every declaration of love, every moment he had believed to be perfect, was instantly tainted, twisted into a cruel mockery. He saw Sarah's face, her eyes closed in apparent bliss, and felt a cold, sharp pain, as if a vital organ had been ripped from his chest. He stumbled from the study, the laptop screen still displaying the grotesque tableau. His legs gave way, and he slumped to the floor, gasping for air that felt thin and acrid. Tears, hot and uncontrollable, streamed down his face, blurring the once familiar contours of his home. The physical pain was immense, a crushing weight of betrayal that left him breathless, his body convulsing with silent sobs. His forever, the unwavering certainty, the bedrock of his existence was gone, replaced by an abyss of despair. The dreams they had shared, the future they had meticulously planned, lay in ruins around him, the debris of a love he had believed immutable. When Sarah returned home later that evening, her usual cheerful greeting died on her lips as she saw him. He stood in the living room, the laptop open on the coffee table, the incriminating video paused, a still frame of their betrayal illuminating the room. His eyes, red-rimmed and vacant, met hers. "How could you?" His voice was a raw whisper, barely audible, yet it echoed with the force of 1,000 shattered promises. The confrontation was a maelstrom of raw emotion. His anger flared, a desperate inferno against the cold, hard truth. Her initial shock gave way to a defensive posture, then a hesitant, shame-faced confession. She admitted to the affair, her words a hammer blow to his already fractured spirit. But there was no true remorse in her voice, only a weary resignation, a hint of impatience, as if his pain was an inconvenience. And then Mark appeared. He walked in, oblivious, whistling a tune, only to freeze at the scene. His smug, unapologetic stance, his dismissive shrug as Liam's gaze fell upon him, added insult to the deepest injury. He offered no apology, no explanation, only a defiant stare that seemed to mock Liam's pain. It was a final, brutal confirmation of their callous disregard. Liam found himself alone in the once dream home, the silence deafening, the air thick with the ghosts of a love that never was. The furniture, the photographs, the symbols of their shared life now felt alien, mocking monuments to a colossal lie. His forever, once a beacon of hope, had become a cruel, bitter joke. He looked around at the remnants of his life, a man adrift in a sea of shattered dreams, his heart a hollow echo in the vast emptiness of his betrayal. The silence of the house had become a physical weight, pressing down on Liam, suffocating him with the wreckage of his shattered life. He could no longer breathe the same air, walk the same floors, or sleep in the same bed that had been defiled by their betrayal. With a heavy heart and a suitcase packed with only essentials, he sought refuge at his sister's quiet suburban home, miles away from the painful memories etched into every corner of his once sacred space. The initial days were a blur of numbness, a protective fog that shielded him from the full force of his reality. He moved through the motions of existence, eating without taste, sleeping without rest, his mind a chaotic whirlwind of disbelief and profound shock. But the numbness eventually gave way, peeling back like a scab to reveal the raw, throbbing wound beneath. Intense grief washed over him in relentless waves, each one threatening to drown him. He would often find himself staring blankly at a wall, tears silently streaming down his face, unable to comprehend how the woman he had loved with every fiber of his being could commit such an act. Anger, hot and volatile, soon joined the grief, a furious tempest raging within him. How could she? How could they? The questions looped endlessly in his mind, a torturous refrain that offered no answers, only deeper pain. He struggled desperately to reconcile the image of the loving, supportive Sarah he had adored with the cold, deceitful woman who had so carelessly dismantled his world. The two versions clashed violently in his memory, leaving him disoriented and questioning his own judgment, his perception of reality. Had he been so blind, so naive? Had their entire relationship been a grand illusion, a performance designed to exploit his unwavering trust? The thought twisted his gut, making him physically ill. His career, once a source of pride and ambition, now felt distant and meaningless. He couldn't focus, couldn't concentrate, his once sharp mind dulled by the constant hum of betrayal. Meetings were missed, deadlines forgotten, his professional life teetering on the brink of collapse. Thankfully, his friends and family, witnessing his profound suffering, rallied around him. His sister, bless her patient soul, listened for hours as he recounted the same painful story, her hand gently rubbing his back. His best friend, David, would arrive with comfort food and an endless supply of dark humor, trying to coax a smile, any sign of life, from Liam's vacant eyes. Their unwavering support was a lifeline, preventing him from sinking completely into the abyss of his despair, even as he pushed them away at times, preferring the solitude of his pain. In the quiet hours of the night, Liam's internal monologue became a relentless tormentor. He questioned everything, his judgment, his love, his entire existence. Was I not enough? Did I do something wrong? Was my love so easily discarded? The self-doubt was crippling, eroding his self-worth until he felt like a hollow shell of the man he once was. The legal proceedings for separation began, a painful, drawn-out process that felt like a public dissection of his broken heart. Each document, each negotiation was a fresh wound, a stark reminder of the irreversible end of his forever. And then there was Mark and Sarah. They made no secret of their new relationship. Their public displays of affection splashed across social media, a cruel, deliberate act designed to twist the knife deeper. Pictures of them smiling, laughing, living the life Liam had once shared with Sarah added a fresh layer of agony to his already unbearable pain. It was a constant, mocking reminder of his betrayal, fueling the embers of his anger. He found himself growing wary of everyone, every smile, every kind gesture, scrutinizing intentions. convinced that everyone was capable of the same deceit. The trust he once so freely gave had been irrevocably shattered, replaced by a cynical shield. One particularly dark night, consumed by despair and the suffocating weight of his broken life, Liam found himself staring at the bottle of pills on his nightstand. The thought, fleeting yet potent, of ending the relentless pain, of simply ceasing to exist, flickered in his mind. The betrayal had not only destroyed his love, but had also fractured his very will to live, leaving him adrift in a sea of hopelessness. The profound impact of betrayal, he realized, was not just the loss of a partner, but the loss of self, the shattering of one's core beliefs about love, trust, and the fundamental goodness of human connection. He stood at the precipice, contemplating the meaning of his broken life, the echo of forever, now a cruel, haunting whisper in the vast emptiness of his soul. The bleakness of that night, however, marked a turning point, a subtle but significant shift in Liam's tormented psyche. The despair, once a suffocating blanket, began to recede, not replaced by hope, but by a cold, searing anger. It was an anger born not of raw emotion, but of a calculated resolve, a quiet fury that promised retribution. The thought of ending it all had been a fleeting weakness, quickly overshadowed by a more primal, insistent urge to make them pay. His grief, a raw, open wound, slowly began to scab over, hardening into a formidable shell. He no longer saw himself as a victim, but as a wronged party, entitled to justice, or at the very least, to vengeance. Liam started to emerge from the depths of his initial despair, but it was not the emergence of a man healed, but of a man transformed. The vacant stare in his eyes was replaced by a sharp, focused intensity. He began to meticulously plan, each thought a precise calculation, each memory of betrayal a fuel for his growing fire. Sarah and Mark had taken everything from him, his love, his trust, his future, and now he would take something from them. He began to research their weaknesses, their vulnerabilities, their ambitions, dissecting their lives with the same methodical precision he once applied to his business ventures. Their shared company, once a symbol of his hard work and dedication, now became the ultimate weapon in his arsenal. His focus shifted entirely from healing to retribution, a dangerous path he walked with an unnerving determination. One afternoon, he found himself face to face with Mark in their former office building, a place they once shared as partners. There was no shouting, no emotional outburst from Liam. Instead, his voice was chillingly calm, his eyes devoid of the pain Mark might have expected. "You thought you won, Mark," Liam stated, his voice a low, dangerous growl that sent a shiver down Mark's spine. "You thought you could take everything and walk away, but you made a mistake. You forgot who I am. And I promise you, this isn't over, not by a long shot." It wasn't a threat delivered in a fit of rage, but a chilling promise of payback, a statement of intent that left Mark visibly unnerved. The narrator observed Liam's transformation, a metamorphosis from a heartbroken lover into a vengeful schemer, his heart now encased in ice. Liam began to reconnect with old contacts, leveraging his extensive network and business acumen, but this time for a very different purpose. He spoke in veiled terms, hinting at restructuring and market corrections, masking his true intentions behind a facade of professional ambition. His friends and family, while relieved to see him functional again, noticed the unsettling change in his demeanor. He was sharper, colder, his humor laced with cynicism. David tried to intervene, sensing the dark path Liam was treading. "Liam, this isn't you. Let it go. Heal." But Liam merely offered a tight, humorless smile. "Healing is a luxury, David. Justice is a necessity." He started gathering resources, building a case, laying the groundwork for his elaborate plan. He spent hours poring over legal documents, financial reports, and market analyses, identifying every weak point, every potential leverage. He knew their business intimately, knew its inner workings better than anyone. And now he would use that knowledge to dismantle it, piece by agonizing piece. There were moments, fleeting moments, when a flicker of doubt would cross his mind. Was this truly the way? Would revenge truly bring him peace? But then, the memory of Sarah's dismissive gaze, Mark's arrogant smirk, and the crushing weight of his betrayal would resurface, extinguishing any nascent hesitation. The image of his shattered forever, the cruel joke it had become, hardened his resolve. One evening, Liam sat alone in his stark, temporary apartment, the only light coming from the screen of his laptop. He brought up a photo, an old one, of Sarah and Mark from a company event, their faces beaming, intertwined in a moment of shared triumph that now felt like a taunt. He zoomed in, studying their expressions, a sinister glint appearing in his eyes. The wheels of vengeance, meticulously crafted and silently set in motion, were now turning. He took a slow, deliberate sip of his whiskey, the ice clinking softly in the silence, a chilling soundtrack to the destruction he was about to unleash. His world had ended, but a new one, fueled by a singular burning purpose, had just begun. He was no longer trying to mend his broken heart. He was preparing to break theirs. Liam initiated the first phase of his meticulously crafted revenge plan, a surgical strike aimed directly at Mark's business. He moved with the precision of a seasoned strategist, leveraging his unparalleled understanding of their company's intricate internal workings. He knew where the seams were weakest, where the vulnerabilities lay hidden beneath layers of corporate jargon and inflated projections. His initial target was a significant new product launch, a venture that Mark had championed and heavily invested in, both financially and professionally. Liam, operating from the shadows, orchestrated a series of strategic leaks to key industry influencers and regulatory bodies. These weren't overt acts of sabotage, but rather carefully disseminated pieces of information that highlighted potential compliance issues and exaggerated market saturation for the product. The financial repercussions for Mark and Sarah's joint ventures began to surface almost immediately. Whispers turned into murmurs, then into public discussions. Investor confidence wavered, share prices dipped, and crucial partnerships started to question their commitments. Liam watched from a distance, an almost clinical detachment in his gaze. He ensured his involvement remained untraceable, a ghost in the machine. He used burner phones, encrypted networks, and proxies, leaving no digital footprint that could lead back to him. The tension within Mark and Sarah's world became palpable, a slow-burning fire that Liam had ignited. They scrambled, their frantic efforts to understand the sudden downturn only serving to deepen their confusion and suspicion. Liam observed their growing distress, a morbid satisfaction unfurling within him. It wasn't the cathartic release he might have once envisioned, but a cold, hard sense of accomplishment. He saw them arguing, their once solid front cracking under the strain. Sarah, ever the pragmatist, blamed Mark for his overambition, for pushing too hard, too fast. Mark, in turn, accused Sarah of not providing adequate support, of failing to anticipate market shifts. Their partnership, once a symbol of their shared ambition, was now a battleground of recriminations. The narrator reflected on the moral ambiguity of Liam's actions, questioning whether revenge, even when justified, truly brought peace. It was a hollow victory, a fleeting moment of satisfaction quickly followed by an unsettling emptiness. His friends, particularly David, continued to try and pull him back from the brink. "Liam, this isn't making you happy," David pleaded during one of their infrequent meetings. "You're just trading one misery for another. Let it go. Move on." But Liam was too far gone, too deeply entrenched in his mission. He would nod, feign agreement, but his eyes betrayed his true intent. The memory of Sarah's betrayal was a constant companion, a burning ember that fueled his every move. He couldn't and wouldn't let it go. Not yet. Then came the crucial strike. Liam orchestrated the anonymous leaking of internal documents, not to the press, but to a powerful, ethics-focused industry watchdog. These documents, carefully selected from his vast knowledge of their operations, exposed a history of questionable business practices, minor breaches of contract, and a pattern of aggressive, sometimes misleading, marketing strategies. The information wasn't enough to bring down their empire overnight, but it was enough to trigger a full-scale investigation, enough to taint Mark's reputation, and enough to send shockwaves through their professional network. The impact was immediate and severe. Mark's carefully cultivated image as a shrewd but ethical businessman began to crumble. Investors pulled out, clients canceled contracts, and the media, sensing blood in the water, began to dig deeper. Sarah, caught in the crossfire, found her own professional standing jeopardized. Her name, once associated with success, was now linked to scandal. They were forced to issue public statements to defend themselves against accusations they couldn't fully comprehend, unable to pinpoint the source of their sudden misfortune. Liam watched a televised press conference, Mark's face etched with worry, Sarah beside him, her usual composure replaced by a visible tremor. A grim smile touched Liam's lips. They were reeling, caught in a downward spiral they couldn't control. He knew with absolute certainty that they had no idea who was pulling the strings, who was orchestrating their downfall from the shadows. The satisfaction was fleeting, a bitter taste in his mouth. But it was there. Mark and Sarah faced a significant setback, their carefully constructed world beginning to crack under the pressure, completely unaware of Liam's unseen hand, his meticulous puppeteering. The stage was set for the next act, and Liam, the silent director, was ready. However, the reverberations of Liam's calculated strikes extended far beyond Mark and Sarah's immediate professional sphere. The industry watchdog's investigation, fueled by the leaked documents, uncovered a web of interconnected businesses and contractors, many of them small, family-run operations that relied heavily on Mark's company for their livelihoods. As Mark and Sarah's enterprise faltered under scrutiny, these smaller entities, innocent bystanders in Liam's war, began to feel the crippling effects. Employees, suddenly without work, faced uncertain futures, their families struggling to make ends meet. Suppliers, whose payments were now delayed or outright canceled, teetered on the brink of bankruptcy. Liam, observing from a distance, saw the headlines, read the reports of job losses and economic hardship in the local community. A cold knot formed in his stomach. He had envisioned a surgical strike, a precise dismantling of Mark and Sarah's ambition, not a widespread economic disruption. The faces of the laid-off workers, glimpsed on local news channels, were not the faces of his betrayers. They were ordinary people, caught in the crossfire of his personal vendetta. A flicker of guilt, sharp and unwelcome, pierced through his carefully constructed shield of righteous anger. It was a sensation he hadn't anticipated, a bitter aftertaste to his perceived victory. One afternoon, while grabbing coffee at a neighborhood cafe he rarely frequented, Liam overheard a conversation that stopped him cold. Two women, their voices low and laced with worry, discussed the closure of a small printing press, a long-standing local business that had been a primary contractor for Mark's company. 50 years it's been in the family, one woman lamented, and now, because of all this mess with Mark's company, they're gone. My cousin worked there his whole life. The words hit Liam like physical blows. He knew that printing press. He had used them himself years ago for personal projects. The owner, a kind, elderly man named Arthur, had always greeted him with a warm smile. Arthur and countless others like him were now paying the price for Liam's need for retribution. The introspection that followed was agonizing. Was this truly the justice he sought? Was the destruction of innocent lives a justifiable byproduct of his revenge? The narrator, observing Liam's internal turmoil, pondered the cruel irony of karma, the cyclical nature of vengeance, where the avenger often becomes indistinguishable from the aggressor. Sleep, which had been fitful at best since the betrayal, now became a torment. Nightmares plagued him, vivid and relentless. He saw the distraught faces of the unemployed, the tearful eyes of children whose parents had lost their jobs, and always, in the background, the ghost of Arthur, his kind smile replaced by a look of bewildered despair. He tossed and turned, haunted by the collateral damage of his carefully orchestrated plan. The cold satisfaction he had felt watching Mark and Sarah squirm was replaced by a gnawing emptiness, a sense of profound unease. Then, an anonymous message arrived, slipped under his door. A single, stark photograph of Arthur's shuttered printing press, a for sale sign crudely taped to its dusty window. There was no note, no sender, but the message was clear. Someone knew. Someone was watching. Someone was aware of the true cost of his actions, and perhaps even aware of his involvement. The carefully constructed anonymity of his plan began to unravel, the pressure mounting with each passing day. The unforeseen variables, the human element he had so callously disregarded, were now closing in. He found himself staring at the photo for hours, the image burning into his mind. He had wanted them to hurt, yes, but not like this. Not this widespread, indiscriminate pain. He almost picked up his phone, almost called his lawyer, almost confessed everything, almost decided to undo whatever damage he could. But then, the memory, sharp and vivid, of Sarah's cold confession, of Mark's unapologetic smirk, flashed before his eyes. The white-hot anger, though momentarily eclipsed by guilt, reignited with a vengeance. He had been wronged, deeply, irrevocably. They deserved to pay. This new, unwanted dilemma caught him between his burning desire for revenge and the growing, suffocating weight of his conscience. The stage was set for a moral reckoning, one he was ill-equipped to face. The internal conflict raged within Liam, a tempest of conflicting emotions. The anonymous photograph, a silent accusation, had chipped away at his resolve, yet the phantom sting of betrayal still burned fiercely. He knew he had to confront Mark, not just to complete his vendetta, but to understand the full scope of the devastation he had wrought, and perhaps to find some way to reconcile the man he once was with the vengeful figure he had become. The confrontation was meticulously planned, a chess match where Liam held all the cards, or so he believed. The setting was a dimly lit, upscale restaurant, chosen by Liam for its discreet corners and hushed ambiance, a place where secrets could be exchanged without drawing undue attention. Mark arrived, looking haggard and stressed, a shadow of his former arrogant self. The financial blows had taken their toll, visible in the lines etched around his eyes and the tremor in his hands as he reached for a glass of water. Liam watched him, a strange mix of satisfaction and unease churning in his gut. "Liam," Mark began, his voice raspy, "I don't know what you want. My company is on the verge of collapse. Sarah, she's gone. What more do you want from me?" Liam leaned forward, his voice low and steady, a stark contrast to the chaos within him. "I want to know why, Mark. I want to know why you destroyed everything I built, everything we built." Mark flinched, then let out a bitter laugh. "Destroyed? Liam, you were so blinded by your perfect little world, you never saw what was right in front of you. Sarah, she was never truly happy with you, not in the way she pretended to be." A cold tendril of dread snaked through Liam. "What are you talking about?" Mark met his gaze, a desperate glint in his eyes. "Sarah was ambitious, Liam, far more than you ever gave her credit for. She loved the idea of your life, the security, the stability, but she craved more: excitement, power. She saw me as a stepping stone, a way to achieve the life she truly wanted, a life she believed you couldn't give her." The words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. This wasn't the confession of a remorseful lover. It was the cynical unraveling of a carefully constructed illusion. Mark continued, his voice gaining a strange, almost confessional tone, as if unburdening himself after years of silence. "She manipulated me too, Liam. She played on my ambition, my weaknesses. She painted a picture of a future with her, a future where we would conquer the business world together. She promised me everything you had, and more. A new, unsettling truth began to emerge, twisting Liam's perception of Sarah. He had seen her as a victim, then as a betrayer. Now, Mark's words painted a picture of a woman far more complex, a master manipulator who had used both of them for her own ends. The betrayal now felt deeper, more insidious, extending beyond the simple act of infidelity. It was a betrayal of trust, of shared dreams, of the very essence of their relationship. A vivid flashback assaulted Liam. Sarah, her eyes sparkling, talking about starting their own foundation, her passion for philanthropy. He remembered dismissing it as a sweet, naive dream, something they would pursue after he had secured their financial future. But now, he wondered if it was just another facet of her ambition, a calculated move to build a public persona, to gain influence. The shades of gray in her character deepened, blurring the clear lines of victim and villain he had so rigidly drawn. His revenge, once so clear-cut, now felt misdirected, incomplete. He had sought to punish the disloyal lover, but he had missed the true architect of his downfall. He left Mark that night with more questions than answers, his mind reeling. The vengeful satisfaction he had once sought felt hollow, replaced by a profound sense of disillusionment. He needed to confront Sarah, not with anger, but with a desperate need for the full, unvarnished truth. He found her a few days later, in a small, rented apartment, a stark contrast to the opulent home they had once shared. She looked drawn, defeated, the consequences of her choices etched on her face. "Sarah," Liam said, his voice devoid of his usual anger, "we need to talk, all of it." She looked up, her eyes wide and haunted. For a long moment, she said nothing, then a single tear traced a path down her cheek. I messed up, Liam, more than you can ever imagine." And then, the dam broke. Sarah, broken by the weight of her deceit, began to speak, her voice trembling, revealing a tapestry of ambition, manipulation, and a deep-seated insecurity that had fueled her every action. She confessed to using Mark, to seeing Liam as a means to an end, to chasing a phantom of power and influence she believed would finally make her feel whole. The confession was a torrent of raw, unfiltered truth, changing everything Liam thought he knew about their forever. Liam listened, his heart a raw, exposed nerve, as Sarah's words painted a picture far more intricate and devastating than he had ever conceived. The initial anger, a familiar, almost comforting shield, began to crumble under the sheer weight of her confession. It wasn't just about infidelity, it was about a calculated, prolonged deception that had woven itself into the very fabric of their life together. He felt a strange mix of relief that the truth was finally out, yet an overwhelming sense of profound sadness for the naive young man he had been, for the love he had so blindly given. He stared at her, not with the fiery rage he once felt, but with a weary resignation. The woman before him, gaunt and visibly broken, was a stranger, yet simultaneously the most honest version of Sarah he had ever encountered. Her ambition, once a charming trait he admired, now revealed itself as a voracious hunger that had consumed their shared dreams and spit out the brittle bones of his trust. She spoke of a relentless drive to prove herself, a deep-seated insecurity stemming from a childhood overshadowed by expectations, a need to escape the perceived mediocrity she feared. Mark, she admitted, had been a tool, a means to accelerate her ascent, to achieve the financial and social standing she craved, a standing she believed Liam, in his steady, earnest way, could not provide quickly enough. The realization hit him with the force of a physical blow. His pursuit of revenge had been based on an incomplete, almost simplistic understanding of her betrayal. He had seen a villain, a temptress, but not the complex, flawed human being driven by her own demons. His actions, so meticulously planned, so ruthlessly executed, had been aimed at a phantom, a caricature of the woman who had truly shattered his world. The satisfaction he had derived from Mark's downfall, from Sarah's public humiliation, now tasted like ash in his mouth. A crushing wave of regret washed over him. He thought of the employees who had lost their jobs, the small businesses that had suffered, the innocent lives caught in the crossfire of his righteous fury. He remembered the flicker of guilt he had felt when he first witnessed the collateral damage, a flicker he had ruthlessly extinguished, convinced that his pain justified any means. Now, that flicker ignited into a searing inferno of self-reproach. He had become the very thing he despised, a destroyer blinded by his own pain, inflicting suffering without truly understanding its genesis. He left Sarah's apartment in a daze, the confession echoing in his ears. The world outside seemed muted, the vibrant colors of life dulled by the gray pallor of his newfound understanding. He sought refuge not in the arms of a friend, but in the quiet, sterile environment of a therapist's office. He poured out his heart, recounting the idyllic beginning, the crushing betrayal, the vengeful descent, and finally, Sarah's raw, unvarnished truth. The therapist, a kind elderly woman with wise eyes, listened patiently, offering no judgment, only a safe space for him to unravel. "You sought justice, Liam," she had said, her voice soft but firm. "But you found only more pain. Vengeance is a hungry beast. It consumes the one who feeds it." Her words resonated deep within him, a painful confirmation of what he was slowly realizing. He had tried to fill the gaping wound in his soul with retribution, but it had only grown larger, more infected. He began to actively, painstakingly try to undo some of the damage. It was a slow, arduous process, fraught with humiliation and rejection. He reached out to some of the smaller businesses that had been impacted by his actions, offering financial assistance, sometimes anonymously, sometimes in person, enduring their cold stares and sharp words. He apologized, not for what Sarah and Mark had done, but for his own role in the wider destruction. Each apology, each act of contrition, chipped away at the hardened shell around his heart, revealing the raw, vulnerable core beneath. He isolated himself, not out of despair, but out of a desperate need for introspection. He spent hours walking by the ocean, the rhythmic roar of the waves, a constant reminder of the relentless passage of time and the ceaseless cycles of life and consequence. He reflected on the journey he had taken, from the idyllic forever to the crushing betrayal, the burning vengeance, and finally to this abyss of regret. He realized that the satisfaction he had sought in vengeance was a mirage, a fleeting illusion that left him emptier than before. It had not brought him peace, only a deeper, more complex pain. One evening, he found himself holding a framed photograph of Sarah and him, taken on their honeymoon. Once a cherished memento, it had become a symbol of his shattered past, a catalyst for his rage. He looked at their smiling faces, so full of hope, so oblivious to the storm brewing. With a sigh that carried the weight of 1,000 unspoken regrets, he gently placed the photograph face down, not out of anger, but as a symbolic act of letting go. He wasn't erasing the past, but acknowledging that its hold on him was finally loosening. Liam stood at a crossroads, the path of vengeance behind him, leading only to desolation. He knew, with a clarity that both terrified and liberated him, that he needed to find a different path forward, one that led not to retribution, but to genuine healing and a chance at a true, untainted peace. Liam began the arduous journey of self-forgiveness, a path far more challenging than any vengeance he had ever plotted. The initial steps were heavy, each one weighed down by the regret of his past actions, the harm he had inflicted, and the person he had allowed himself to become. He knew that true redemption wasn't a destination, but a continuous, conscious effort. He focused on rebuilding his own life, brick by painful brick, dedicating himself to creating something positive from the ashes of his destruction. Professionally, he started small, consulting for a nonprofit organization that helped struggling local businesses, a poignant irony that was not lost on him. He channeled his sharp business acumen, once used for destruction, into creation, finding a quiet satisfaction in helping others avoid the pitfalls he himself had experienced. He sought out those he had inadvertently harmed during his vengeful spree. It was an uncomfortable, often humiliating process. He visited small shop owners whose supply chains had been disrupted, offering genuine apologies and practical assistance, sometimes in the form of pro bono consulting, sometimes with direct financial aid. There were cold shoulders and harsh words, but occasionally a flicker of understanding, a grudging acceptance that fueled his resolve. These were not grand gestures, but quiet, consistent acts of contrition, each one a small step towards mending the fabric of his own conscience. Reconnecting with his family and friends was another crucial, delicate task. His parents had watched his descent with helpless anguish, and his closest friends had tried to intervene, only to be pushed away by his single-minded pursuit of retribution. Slowly, tentatively, he began to rebuild those damaged relationships. He listened more than he spoke, acknowledging their pain and his own failings. There were tearful conversations, difficult truths exchanged, and the gradual, healing balm of forgiveness. His sister, who had been particularly hurt by his withdrawal, became a confidant once more, her steady presence a grounding force. A new venture began to take shape in his mind, something born not of ambition or revenge, but of a genuine desire to create positive change. He envisioned a platform that would mentor entrepreneurs, guiding them through ethical business practices and fostering a culture of support rather than cutthroat competition. It was a project driven by a desire to atone, to build something inherently good, a stark contrast to the destructive path he had once walked. The narrator understood that Liam's journey highlighted the profound resilience of the human spirit, the power of choice, and the infinite possibility of transformation, even after the deepest falls. One crisp autumn afternoon, a chance encounter occurred. Liam was leaving a coffee shop when he saw her across the street. Sarah. Time seemed to slow, the world around them fading into a blur. She looked different, perhaps a little older, a little worn, but her eyes still held that familiar depth. Their eyes met, and for a moment, the chasm of their shared past yawned between them. But this time, there was no anger, no accusation, no burning resentment. There was only a profound, almost weary understanding. He crossed the street, a sense of calm settling over him that he hadn't thought possible. "Sarah," he said, his voice steady. She flinched slightly, then offered a small, hesitant smile. "Liam." They spoke for nearly an hour, sitting on a park bench as fallen leaves danced around them. They talked not about blame or betrayal, but about the consequences of their actions, the pain they had caused each other, and the long, difficult road to recovery. There was an unspoken acknowledgement of the past, a shared understanding of the wreckage they had created, but also a quiet recognition of the growth they had both undergone. Liam realized that he had long ago forgiven her, not for her sake, but for his own, releasing the corrosive bitterness that had consumed him for so long. He found closure, not in the dramatic confrontation he had once envisioned, but in this quiet, empathetic exchange. It was a moment of profound personal triumph, a small victory in his arduous journey of healing. As they parted ways, a gentle breeze rustled through the trees, carrying with it a sense of lightness, a burden lifted. Liam felt a genuine moment of peace, a quiet hope blossoming in his chest. It was a stark contrast to the despair that had once been his constant companion, a testament to the arduous but ultimately liberating path of redemption. He understood now that true peace came not from making others pay, but from finding forgiveness within himself. Just as Liam had begun to truly embrace this newfound peace, A quiet hope blossoming in his chest, a shadow from his past began to stir, threatening to unravel the delicate tapestry of his rebuilt life. It wasn't Sarah, nor Mark, but someone far more insidious, a consequence of his relentless pursuit of vengeance that he had almost forgotten. During his darkest days, when his grief had morphed into a cold, calculated anger, Liam had not only targeted Mark's business, but had also, in his blind rage, stepped on many smaller, less significant players in the intricate web of finance and reputation. One such individual, Edmund Thorne, a minor but ambitious competitor who had been collateral damage in Liam's strategic takedown of Mark's empire, had been quietly nursing his own festering wound of resentment. Edmund Thorne was not like Mark. He was neither charismatic nor particularly successful, but he possessed a dangerous, simmering sense of injustice and an uncanny ability to hold a grudge. He had lost everything: his small investment firm, his reputation, his life savings, all because he had been indirectly linked to a deal Liam had meticulously sabotaged to cripple Mark. For years, Thorne had watched from the periphery, a ghost in the machine, observing Liam's rise from the ashes, his supposed redemption, with a bitter sneer. He saw not a man transformed, but a hypocrite, a destroyer who had merely found a new disguise. Now, Thorne chose his moment. The threat emerged subtly at first, a series of anonymous, unsettling emails to Liam's new business partners, hinting at past unethical practices, casting doubt on Liam's integrity. Then, it escalated. One evening, Liam received a chilling, untraceable message. A photograph of his sister's home, taken from a distance, with a single, ominous red circle highlighting her front door. The image sent a jolt of ice through Liam's veins, shattering the fragile peace he had so carefully constructed. This was no longer about money or reputation. This was personal, a direct attack on the people he held dear, the very relationships he had worked so hard to mend. The narrator understood that actions, once set in motion, often have echoes that reverberate long after the initial sound has faded. Liam's past, the very vengeance he had sought to move beyond, was now reaching out to drag him back into the darkness. His newfound commitment to nonviolence and ethical conduct was immediately challenged. How could he protect his sister, his friends, his budding new life, without resorting to the destructive tactics he had so recently renounced? He tried to reason with the unseen antagonist, sending a reply to the anonymous email, explaining his change of heart, his regret for the collateral damage he had caused. He offered restitution, a genuine attempt to right the wrongs of his past. But Thorne was beyond reason, his mind poisoned by years of bitterness. His retribution was not about money, it was about tearing down the man who had torn him down, making Liam feel the same desolation he had endured. The threats intensified. A meticulously crafted smear campaign began to circulate online, dredging up every detail of Liam's past actions, twisting them into a narrative of calculated malice. His new investors, initially enthusiastic, began to express concern, their faith shaken by the relentless assault on his character. Liam found himself under immense pressure, caught between the need to protect his burgeoning enterprise and the desperate urge to shield his loved ones from the escalating danger. One night, as Liam walked home from his office, a figure emerged from the shadows of an alleyway. It wasn't Thorne, but a hulking, silent enforcer whose presence alone was a chilling warning. The man didn't speak. He simply held up a small, crumpled photograph. It was a picture of Liam's elderly mother entering her local grocery store. The message was clear, unmistakable. Liam felt a primal fear he hadn't experienced since the immediate aftermath of Sarah's betrayal. But this time, it was not for himself. It was for his family. Pushed to his limits, Liam realized he couldn't fight this battle alone, nor could he fight it with the same tools he had once wielded. He needed a different kind of help. A different approach. He thought of his old friend, Michael, a quiet, unassuming man who had always possessed a keen intellect and an unwavering moral compass. someone Liam had inadvertently helped during his own redemption arc by offering him a second chance in his new venture. Michael, initially hesitant, listened intently as Liam recounted the terrifying sequence of events. He saw the genuine fear in Liam's eyes, the desperation to protect his family without compromising the man he had become. The conflict was no longer about revenge, but about survival, about protecting the fragile new life he had painstakingly built. Liam's past, once a source of bitter lessons, had now become a direct and dangerous threat. As the shadowy figure melted back into the darkness, leaving Liam alone under the flickering streetlights, a profound realization settled upon him. His journey was far from over. The past, it seemed, was not content to simply fade away. It demanded to be confronted once and for all. The quiet peace he had found was now shattered, replaced by a desperate urgency. His past had caught up to him in the most dangerous way imaginable, and the ultimate test of his transformation lay just ahead. The sun, usually a comforting presence in Liam's life, now seemed to mock him with its indifferent warmth as he walked into the nondescript warehouse Michael had secured. This was it, the staging ground for the ultimate confrontation. Thorne's demands had escalated, moving beyond mere digital sabotage to a physical, in-person meeting. He had stipulated a precise location, a derelict industrial zone on the outskirts of the city, and a time that ensured the cloak of twilight would begin to descend upon their encounter. Thorne wanted to see the fear in Liam's eyes, to savor his discomfort. He wanted a spectacle. Liam's heart pounded a frantic rhythm against his ribs, a drumbeat of anticipation and dread. He was acutely aware that this conflict would test every fiber of his being, every ounce of his commitment to the new path he had forged. He could feel the familiar, dangerous allure of his old self, the Liam who would have met aggression with greater aggression, who would have planned a counterstrike with cold precision. But that Liam was a ghost, a shadow of a past he was desperately trying to outrun. Michael, ever the pragmatist, had meticulously prepared. He'd installed hidden cameras, mapped out escape routes, and even contacted a few of his old, discreet contacts from his previous life in security, ensuring that while Liam would walk in alone, he wouldn't be entirely without backup. "Remember, Liam," Michael had reiterated, his voice calm but firm. "You're not going in there to fight him. You're going in to talk, to understand, to offer a way out." As Thorne's vehicle, an old battered pickup truck, rumbled into the warehouse, kicking up dust, Liam took a deep breath. Thorne emerged, not alone, but with two hulking figures flanking him, the same enforcer who had delivered the photograph of his mother, and another equally imposing man. Thorne's face was a mask of grim satisfaction, his eyes burning with an almost manic intensity. "Well, well, well," Thorne sneered, his voice raspy. "Look what the cat dragged in. The great Liam finally come to face his demons." Liam stood his ground, his hands open at his sides, a gesture of non-aggression he hoped Thorne would recognize. "Thorne," Liam began, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hands, "I know you're hurting. I know I caused you pain, and for that, I am truly sorry." The words felt inadequate, hollow in the cavernous space, yet they were genuine. He saw a flicker of surprise in Thorne's eyes, quickly replaced by a renewed scowl. "Sorry?" Thorne spat, taking a step closer, his bodyguards tensing. "Sorry doesn't bring back my business. Sorry doesn't give me back my reputation. Sorry doesn't make me forget what you did." His voice rose, echoing off the concrete walls. "You destroyed everything I had, just like you were destroyed. And now, I'm going to return the favor." Thorne gestured to his enforcers, who began to slowly encircle Liam. This was the moment of temptation, the precipice where his old self screamed for dominance. His instincts urged him to fight, to defend, to lash out. But he saw Michael's face in his mind, heard his calm advice, and most importantly, he saw his mother's worried eyes, the photograph clutched in Thorne's enforcer's hand. He couldn't go back. He wouldn't. "I know what I did was wrong, Thorne," Liam continued, his voice gaining strength. "And I'm not asking for forgiveness, but I am offering to make amends, real amends, not just words." He paused, looking directly into Thorne's furious eyes. "I've started a new venture, one focused on ethical business practices, on supporting small businesses, on rebuilding. I want to offer you a place in it, a significant stake, a chance to rebuild what you lost, not just for yourself, but for your employees, for your community." Thorne's jaw dropped slightly, his anger momentarily eclipsed by bewilderment. His enforcers hesitated, their movements slowing. This was not the reaction they had anticipated. Liam wasn't fighting, he wasn't even cowering. He was offering a genuine olive branch, a path to reconciliation. It was a gamble, a desperate plea for understanding in a situation steeped in bitterness. Liam knew it might not work, but it was the only way he could move forward, the only way he could truly prove his transformation. The lives of those he cared about, the fragile peace he had built, hinged on this moment. The silence in the warehouse was deafening, punctuated only by the distant hum of city traffic as Thorne weighed Liam's unexpected proposal, his face a canvas of conflicting emotions. The silence in the warehouse stretched, thick and heavy, as Thorne's eyes, once burning with fury, now held a flicker of confusion, then a reluctant curiosity. His enforcers, still poised for action, looked from their boss to Liam, unsure how to proceed. Liam held his breath, every fiber of his being braced for rejection, for the punch he still half expected. Then, slowly, almost imperceptibly, Thorne's shoulders sagged. The rigid anger that had defined him for months seemed to drain away, replaced by a weary resignation. "A place in your new venture?" Thorne's voice was softer now, devoid of its earlier venom. He sounded less like a predator and more like a man who had simply run out of fight. He looked at his enforcers, then back at Liam. You destroyed me. Why would you offer me anything but more pain?" "Because the pain wasn't just yours," Liam replied, his voice gentle but firm. "It was mine too. It consumed me, just as it consumed you, and it hurt people who had nothing to do with our fight. I've learned that revenge isn't a solution, it's just a deeper hole. I'm not asking you to forgive me, Thorne. I'm asking you to see that there's another way. A way to rebuild, not just for yourself, but for everyone your business supported. For those employees who lost their jobs, for the suppliers who suffered. We can do better together." Thorne stared at him, a complex array of emotions warring across his face. Suspicion, anger, but also a nascent spark of hope. The enforcer who held the photo of Liam's mother discreetly lowered his hand, sensing the shift in the atmosphere. It was a gamble that paid off. Thorne, broken by his own losses, saw a glimmer of redemption, not just for his business, but perhaps for his own spirit. He nodded, a single decisive movement. "All right, Liam, tell me more. Convince me this isn't another one of your tricks." And so, the ultimate test concluded, not with a clash of fists or a volley of accusations, but with the quiet, arduous work of reconciliation. The dust settled, not just in the warehouse, but in Liam's soul. He emerged from that confrontation scarred, yes, but immeasurably stronger. He had faced his past, not with the weapon of vengeance, but with the shield of empathy and the olive branch of opportunity. He had truly conquered his demons, proving to himself that growth was possible even after the most profound betrayals. Liam's new sense of purpose solidified. It wasn't about chasing a forever with someone else, or even about recreating the perfect life he once envisioned. It was about building a meaningful life for himself, one rooted in integrity and contribution. He dedicated himself to his new venture, focusing on ethical practices and community empowerment. He shared his story, not as a lament, but as a cautionary tale, a testament to the destructive power of unchecked anger and the transformative potential of forgiveness. He spoke at community events, mentored young entrepreneurs, and invested in local initiatives, pouring his energy into creation rather than destruction. His relationships with family and friends, once strained by his obsessive pursuit of revenge, blossomed anew, built on a foundation of honesty, vulnerability, and trust. Michael, his steadfast friend, remained a pillar of support, often reminding Liam of how far he had come. His mother, her eyes now free of worry, looked at him with profound pride. Liam found happiness in unexpected places: the quiet satisfaction of a successful project, the laughter shared with friends, the simple beauty of a sunset over the town he once thought he'd lost. He embraced the imperfections of life, understanding that true joy wasn't found in flawless perfection, but in the resilience to overcome hardship. He occasionally saw Sarah and Mark around town, living their lives, often looking somewhat diminished by the consequences of their own choices. But Liam felt no anger, no bitterness, only a quiet sense of closure. The raw wound had healed, leaving behind a scar that served as a reminder, not of pain, but of strength. He had forgiven Sarah, not for her sake, but for his own, releasing the corrosive bitterness that had once chained him. It was the ultimate act of self-love, freeing himself from the prison of his own resentment. Liam would often walk along the riverbanks, the same place where he and Sarah had dreamed of their future. But now, he looked out at the horizon, not with the naive certainty of youth, but with acceptance and an abiding hope for the future. He understood that while his first forever had ended in a spectacular collapse, a new, more resilient forever had begun. It wasn't a destination, but a continuous journey of growth, learning, and connection. His world hadn't ended. It had merely been reshaped, forged anew in the crucible of betrayal and redemption. The enduring human spirit, he realized, was not defined by what it lost, but by what it found within itself to rebuild.